So thank you for doing this with us. And just to start off with questions, can you briefly describe your role, or the role of UW Madison Food Pantry and like who you guys serve?
Yeah. So we're the Open Seat Food Pantry. We started in about 2016. We were started by students within the student government. And so our role here on campus is we're kind of a food pantry. We have our food pantry location here at East Campus Mall, where it's kind of like a mini free grocery store, entirely for students and entirely run by students. So we're kind of here for students who might need a little bit of extra support throughout the week because our biggest goal is for students to focus on their success, their studies, what really matters to them, and not the source of their next meal. So that's what we have going on here at East Campus Mall. And then we also have a secondary distribution site at Eagle Heights. So we're there every Wednesday, and we also distribute food at that location too.
And just for a little bit more, do you guys not advertise yourselves, but do you guys kind of make sure students know about you? Is there any way you guys do that, advertising kind of like what you do?
Yeah. So this is kind of the season for us getting our name out there. But with the beginning of the school year, we try to attend a lot of information fairs where we know we're going to be meeting a lot of students who might want to use our resources. So just last week, I was at the Student Parent Resource Fair. Next week, we'll be at the International Student Services Fair. Um, because we serve a lot of international students, low income students, student parents, and then we also work with other campus partners like financial aid, Office of Student Assistance and Support, to work with them to make sure that students are aware of OpenSea, especially those students who especially need that support.
Awesome. And then if you do know this, how did the pantry first get started, and what kind of inspired its creation?
Yeah, so this was a lot. This was about 10 years ago. But from what I know about when the pantry started, it was started by students who looked around and they saw that there was a need for a student-specific food pantry because students, college students especially, experience disproportionately high rates of food insecurity because of the high cost of living, the high cost of tuition. And for students, it's just really hard, like a lot of people, it's really hard to balance your basic needs among other things as a college student. And so um, it was started by students in the student government, and from what I've heard, it was run out of just a little supply closet upstairs, or not a supply
Mhm.
closet. I'm sorry, it was a like staff kitchen, right? And so it's kind of this just like put together sort of operation. And since then, it's kind of grown to what it is
Mhm.
now. Back in 2020, we started expanding to, or maybe 2021, we expanded to the Eagle Heights distribution location. And then just this summer, we actually moved locations excuse me, we moved locations just this summer to our bigger space now. So ever since
Awesome.
2016, we've kind of expanded because we've seen a growing increase in need
Mhm.
among the student population.
Awesome. And then can you explain what your role here is on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So we have a really small team. We have four students. We have three undergraduates and one graduate student who kind of work to make the pantry operate basically. So I'm one of the undergraduates and I'm in charge of distribution. My formal title is undergraduate distribution director. But we kind of all do all sorts of different roles. So some of my main responsibilities when I'm not actually working in the pantry is ordering food from Second Harvest, working with our retail recovery partners, and just making sure there's food here. But on the day to day, I work with shoppers who come into our East Campus Mall location. I help out with the Eagle Heights distribution. I update the website sometimes, and I email with people with different questions, and I do stuff like this. So we kind of all do all sorts of things, which is one of my favorite parts of the job because I get to talk to cool people and stuff like that.
Hmm. And then in terms of like the food insecurity on campus, how prevalent is food insecurity among UW Madison students?
Yeah, so right now they're actually conducting a survey of basic needs and security and access here at UW. But we haven't had a formal survey here at UW. And so um, back in, what was it, spring of 2024, some students and myself conducted a survey through ASM, the Associated Students of Madison, or student government, about food insecurity. And through that survey, we found about 1 in 5 students here at UW are experiencing food insecurity. Um, and that is on par with what other universities have seen as well. One of the really interesting and unfortunate things we learned during that survey is 38% of students reported skipping a meal at least once a month because of financial reasons. So um, there's a really high proportion of students who are struggling with food insecurity or food access or even just regular access to nutritional food, um, very consistently on this campus, which is really unfortunate. Um, and, it kind of makes sense with the high cost of living, high cost of rent, high tuition costs. I think for a lot of students, and I've experienced this myself, food is the easiest thing to go in the budget. And so when students are asked to make a decision between rent or tuition or textbooks, unfortunately, a lot of students choose to skip meals or are forced to skip meals or are unable to afford groceries. And so the open seat, we understand we cannot fix food insecurity on campus. We're kind of like, unfortunately, a band-aid on a bullet hole, but we're here to try to help students who just need that little bit of extra support.
Mhm. And then, do you see certain groups of students being more impacted than
Definitely.
others?
So here at the Open Sea, we used to do some more demographic data. So I don't have exact numbers, but we primarily serve international students and graduate students. Um, and we also know we primarily serve low income students as well. So yeah,
And then we talked about a little bit with Second Harvest, but how does the pantry source its food and resources?
definitely. So I would say about 80 to 90% of our food is from the Second Harvest Food Bank. So we get to purchase food from them for sometimes it's for free, which is great, or at a very, very low cost, and we get to buy in full. And so we get about during the school year about 8,000 pounds of food every week from Second Harvest between our two different locations. And then we also do retail recovery. So retail recovery is when food is about to go to waste, but we kind of step in, we go to our retail recovery partners and we go pick that food up. So our current partners are Target on State Street and GoPuff as well, and we're super appreciative of them because we get this really high quality food that's just about to go bad, but it's still perfectly safe to eat. And our shoppers, we get to bring it back to our shoppers, which is super great. And then one partnership, we actually have a couple other partnerships with some gardens as well. So we work with the Forward Gardens or the Community Pantry Gardens. They're over on the west side of Madison, and we pick up produce from them once a week. Of course, that's only during the summer months and the produce season months. And then we also work with the dining hall gardens. They drop off food at Eagle Heights once a week, and then also just a few other smaller gardens as well.
Awesome. And then, what steps do you take to make the food pantry welcoming and stigma free?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of unique because we serve students, and all the students who are here are students, right? And so I think one of the ways that we go about this is, just making it a very casual experience. So when folks come in, I love to just chat with them about, if they have questions, I'm like, oh, I love that product because I also use the pantry myself, and so do a lot of our staff and volunteers. And so I get to just chat with them about where the food's coming from and what ingredients I like and what recipes I like to make with our ingredients to just make it a very kind of casual and chill experience.
Hmm.
Some of the other things we do is just make sure that all of our staff and volunteers know to be kind and respectful, of course, and stuff like that.
How has the pantry made a difference for students since it opened?
Yeah, so one way to look at that is the amount of students we're serving. So, in the spring semester of 2025, we had about 1,500 visits a month. And so that's not individual students necessarily because some people like to come multiple times a month, but that was 1,500 times someone came in the door and accessed some sort of food, which I think is a huge impact. And so we do understand that our resources are limited and we alone cannot solve food insecurity, but I would hope and I like to think that we can just help make folks' week go by a little bit easier and help to help them to access more nutritional food and free food as well.
What are the most powerful moments you witnessed working here, or the specific people or certain events that you remember the most?
Definitely. I will go to the most recent one because I think there has just been so many positive experiences. I've been able to make friends with a lot of the shoppers here at the Pantry Net. Some of them I know them by name or their kids' names as well, and that's always it's just nice to see friends and
Hmm.
friendly faces as well. But um, more recently, I was talking to the former graduate advisor of the pantry, and she was telling me about how a family friend of hers was experiencing some financial troubles or some food insecurity. Um, and she came in and was kind of nervous about that experience because we understand that going to a food pantry, while we try to make it welcoming, it still is a very stigmatizing experience. And when she came out of that experience, this family friend told the former graduate advisor that it was one of the most positive experiences she's had on campus, which I just think is a super, super cool story to hear because we are such a big part of campus in a way because so many students are accessing this as a resource. And my only hope is that the folks that do come in here can have a positive experience. So
Hmm.
I was really happy to hear
Yeah,
that.
that's awesome. What are the biggest misconceptions about food insecurity on campus?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of folks, college student food insecurity is kind of seen as a reality and something that should not be challenged. It's kind of normalized for students to eat ramen every meal, or for college students just to be broke and to not access nutritionally valuable foods. And I think that's something that we as a campus really need to challenge. Um, and I think we need to go beyond programs or institutions like the Open Seat because we understand that these aren't enough too. So I think that's the other stigma is that if we just food pantry our way through this, we can food pantry our way out of food insecurity. But the sad reality is that Open Seat has continued to grow, and as we continue to grow, we are continually unable to meet demand, right? And so we have to recognize that food insecurity is a problem and it's a problem that's not going to go away. And we as an institution really need to step up and say, how are we going to solve this beyond, students' labor or students' money, like we do here at the Open Seat? Because unfortunately, it's not enough anymore.
Hmm. And again, we have touched on this a little bit, but what's the most rewarding part about working at the pantry?
Yeah, I honestly just like to chat with the shoppers and to hear about them and their families and hear what they like to cook or just see them every week and hear about what's going on in their lives. And so I think it's just kind of the friends that I've
Hmm.
made with shoppers and um, staff and volunteers too. I think we have a really kind of tight knit staff group that we have here, and we all kind of work to make this a really positive experience. And I think it kind of brings us together and also brings us a lot of joy to, chat and hear what our shoppers think as well.
Um, have there been moments that changed how you view food insecurity here, like in your time?
Um, yeah, I think that as someone who's experienced food insecurity in my life, I think that I didn't expect when I came into the university that food insecurity would be so high among college students. And unfortunately, it's been kind of a reality check. So I think that just learning that I wasn't alone in that experience was somewhat positive. And just to know that other students are going through it too has kind of inspired me to want to make a change on campus as
Hmm.
well.
What are your hopes and goals for the future being here at the food pantry, and even when
Definitely.
you leave?
Yeah, so I mean, for the pantry and for campus, I mean, my overall goal is for students to feel supported in their basic needs access,
Hmm.
and to feel like they have a place to go, whether that's the pantry or other resources on campus. Um, that's my goal. But for the pantry, I think for us to receive more support from the
Hmm.
university so that we're able to meet that demand that we're seeing every year. So one of the ways that this could look is more staff support. Currently, we don't have any full-time staff member who's a full-time working adult, and that can be really difficult sometimes because that means when we go on breaks or when we travel or when we um, have to focus on our studies, it means the pantry and the pantry shoppers suffer. So, if we're in order for us to grow, I think that's one of our goals, and then also just some more retail recovery partners too,
Hmm.
because the food pantry is a really great way to serve students, but also to reduce waste. And so, I think that's another goal of mine as well.
So, lastly, these were all the main questions I had
Sure.
covered, but is there anything that I didn't ask in a question form that you wanted to touch on?
No, I will just say, and I always like to say this, I really want to reiterate that we are entirely run by students, and it's the students' dollars and donation dollars that really make this
Hmm.
pantry happen. And just if these students who are staff and volunteers and our donors weren't motivated by this cause, unfortunately, the pantry wouldn't happen. And so it's really a lot of love and motivation that really helps the pantry to work like it does.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.